I have always believed that a mother's love is the purest thing in this world. It is selfless, endless, and does not ask for anything in return. I lived my entire life for my daughter, Sophia. She was my heart, my pride, my everything. My name is Maria Rodriguez, and this is the story of how my only daughter, the child I raised with my bare hands, turned her back on me when I needed her the most. I remember the first time I held her in my arms. So tiny, so fragile. I promised her that day, as she slept against my chest, that I would never let her suffer. I swore that I would do whatever it took to give her a better life than the one I had. And I did. I worked as a chef in a small restaurant for 30 years. It wasn't an easy job. Long hours, burning heat, aching feet. I would come home late at night, exhausted, with the smell of onions and garlic clinging to my clothes. But I didn't mind. Because every plate of food I made, every extra shift I took, every peso I saved, it was all for her. I wanted her to have opportunities I never had. I wanted her to go to a good school, to have nice clothes, to walk into any room with confidence. And she did. My little Sophia grew up into a beautiful, intelligent young woman. She went to university, got a degree, and started working in a big office. I was so proud of her. Seeing her in her neatly pressed blazer, speaking English fluently, attending meetings, making important decisions. It made all the sacrifices feel worth it. But life is strange, isn't it? It can change in an instant. One moment you feel secure, and the next, everything you built is taken away. That's what happened to me. One evening after my shift, my manager called me into his office. His face looked heavy, his eyes filled with regret. I knew something was wrong. "Maria," he said, "I'm so sorry, but we have to let you go." Just like that, my 30 years of loyalty, my home away from home, was gone. The restaurant was struggling, and they couldn't afford to keep me anymore. I walked home that night in a daze, holding my last paycheck in my hands. It wasn't enough to survive. But I told myself, it's okay. Sophia is here. She will understand. When I told her, she didn't react the way I expected. At first she said, "Mama, don't worry. Things will be fine." But as the days turned into weeks and the weeks into months, I started to notice a change. She started calling less, visiting less. When we did talk, she always seemed distant, cold, like I was no longer her mother, but just another problem she had to deal with. One day I finally gathered the courage to ask her for help. Not for money. I never wanted that. I just wanted to know that she was there for me, that I wasn't alone. But her response shattered my heart. "Mama, I can't keep taking care of you. I have my own life." I felt a sharp pain in my chest, as if the years of love, the years of sacrifice had meant nothing. I wanted to tell her, "Mija, I never asked you to take care of me. I just wanted your love, your time." But I didn't say anything. I just nodded and smiled, pretending that her words hadn't just crushed me. From that day on, she stopped coming. Days passed, then weeks, then months. I would sit by the phone, dialing her number, listening to the ring, hoping, praying she would answer. "Hi, this is Sophia. Leave a message." Every time I would whisper the same words. "Mija, it's me. Just calling to see if you're okay. I miss you." But she never called back. I started to wonder. Had I done something wrong? Had I been too much? Was I now just a burden? The loneliness was unbearable. I would walk through the market, seeing mothers and daughters shopping together, laughing, talking, and my heart would ache. I used to have that. Now, I had nothing. I spent nights crying into my pillow, asking God why my own child had abandoned me. But one day, as I sat alone in my tiny apartment, staring at the empty chair across from me, I realized something. Love is not about what others give back to you. Love is about what you give. without conditions, without expectations. So I decided to stop waiting. Instead of drowning in loneliness, I chose to give love to those who needed it. I started volunteering at a local shelter, serving food to the homeless. Their smiles, their gratitude. It reminded me that kindness was never wasted. I found joy in helping others, in sharing meals, in listening to their stories. And slowly, the pain in my heart began to heal. Years passed. I learned to be happy again. At first, it was hard. Waking up to silence, eating meals alone, having no one to ask, "Mama, how was your day?" But I refused to let loneliness destroy me. I started waking up early, going for walks, breathing in the fresh morning air. I spent time with the people at the shelter, listening to their stories, laughing, cooking for them. It filled a hole in my heart that my daughter had left behind. And then, something happened. One evening at the shelter, a man sat across from me. His clothes were worn, his face tired, but his eyes were kind. "You have a gift," he told me. "A gift?" I laughed. "I only know how to cook." "That's exactly what I mean," he said, smiling. His name was Diego, and he had once been a restaurant investor before losing everything. But now, he was rebuilding his life, just like me. He told me my food reminded him of his grandmother's cooking, that it had something special, something people would pay for. At first, I didn't take him seriously. What did I know about running a business? I was just a poor woman who had spent her whole life working in someone else's kitchen. But Diego wouldn't let me give up on myself. He helped me rent a tiny space, just a little street-side cafe. I used the last of my savings to buy ingredients. I started small, just one pot of soup, a few homemade tortillas, fresh vegetables. I stood there behind my little cart, nervous, wondering if anyone would come. And then, something incredible happened. People came. They tasted my food and smiled. They told their friends. Soon I had a line forming every morning. Within a year, I had enough money to move into a real restaurant, a cozy little place with warm yellow lights and wooden tables. The smell of garlic and saffron filled the air. People called it Casa Maria, and the customers kept coming. Word spread, and soon I was featured in newspapers, magazines, even on TV. People loved the story of the old woman who had nothing and built something from scratch. One day, a man in a suit walked in and made me an offer. He wanted to invest in me. That tiny cafe turned into 3 restaurants, then 5, then 10. Before I knew it, I was wealthy, very wealthy. I had my own house, my own car, my own staff. I no longer worried about paying rent or affording food. I had built something for myself. But even with all the success, I still thought about my daughter. Where was she? Did she ever think of me? And then, one night, I got a phone call. Her voice was small, fragile, broken. "Mama, it's me." My heart stopped. I hadn't heard that voice in 10 years. She was crying. I could barely understand her words. She had lost everything. Her husband had left her. Her company had gone bankrupt. She had nowhere to go. And in that moment, I felt something strange. Not anger, not hatred, just sadness. Because the same thing that happened to me had now happened to her. She had chased money, success, luxury. But in the end, she was alone. Just like I had been. "Where are you?" I asked softly. She hesitated. "Mama, I need help." And even after all the pain, all the years of silence, I told her to come home, because no matter what, I was still her mother. She came to my house the next morning, looking thinner, tired, ashamed. She stood at my doorstep, staring at the grand house, the beautiful garden, the expensive car in the driveway. Her eyes widened. Mama, is this your house? I nodded. Yes, mija, this is my house. She broke down in tears. I didn't say I told you so. I didn't remind her of how she left me when I needed her. I just opened my arms, and she ran into them, sobbing. Sophia tried to start over, but life had changed her. She was no longer the strong, confident woman I had raised. She was a woman full of regret. She looked at me one day and whispered, I should have been there for you, Mama. I didn't respond, because some lessons in life we learned too late. She struggled to find work. No one wanted to hire her because of her financial scandals. She had lost the respect of her colleagues, her friends. The world that once adored her had forgotten her. And the worst part? She realized that money was never enough. Success, power, it can all disappear overnight. But love, family, that is what stays. If you are watching this today, I want you to remember something. Never turn your back on the people who love you unconditionally, because one day, you might wake up and realize that they're gone. No amount of money, no amount of success can replace a mother's love. If you still have your parents, call them, hug them, visit them. If you have neglected them, it is not too late to make things right. And if you are a parent who has been abandoned, forgive. Not for them, for you. Because when you let go of the pain, you make space for something much great. If you find this story interesting, do well to like, share, and comment your thoughts. Thank you.